home, and the number of homeowners in England is in danger of falling to its lowest level since the mid-1980s because of soaring house prices, larger deposits and a shortage of available homes. The National Housing Federation, which represents 1,200 housing associations in England, is warning a whole generation could be shut out from the property market. Let's talk to personal finance experts Roddy, who's joining us now here in the studio. Hi. So, how bad is it?
I think it is quite bad, really, and it's certainly bad for those people who are in rented accommodation, who ideally would prefer to own their own home. None of today's reports really are good news for people in those circumstances, because it doesn't look, in the short term at least, as though things are going to get any easier for those people to become homeowners.
A lot of people who rent, though, don't necessarily want to become homeowners, do they? It makes sound financial sense for them. Yeah,
I noticed on Sky Online there are a lot of people that have written in and said, actually, it suits us because of job moves, you know, they want to be a bit flexible and so on. But again, that's not the whole population, and there are a lot of people that I think, I've lived in rented accommodation, I don't know about you, but in reality, there are certain restrictions imposed upon you trying to turn that into a home, you know, about how you decorate and so on. So actually, I think this is a real personal problem for hundreds of thousands of people, and the news splashed across the Express today that house prices are going to soar again is just completely bad news for those people.
Is it going to soar again?
I think that's a really difficult question to answer, largely because the assumptions that have been made today that you read about in the newspapers, I think are partly PR driven. You know, we can't overlook the fact that in Britain we're obsessed with home ownership, and so there's a lot of people whose jobs and interests are tied up with that. As a consequence, what will dictate house price rises are a number of factors. One is that interest rates will remain low and continue to remain low, so people can afford to buy homes. Secondly, that there's some relaxation on the amount of deposits that you actually need to put down on a house. And possibly thirdly, that the banks start to lend you more money, more liberally than they have done in the last 2 years, where they've been trying to constrain themselves, because of course the banks did get told off a lot by the public, by the media in general, for over-lending. So I think they're riding a double-edged sword here, not a particularly good place to be.
Do you have a lot of sympathy for people who are trying to get on the housing market and have not been able to do it so far? I mean, when I first got in the housing market, interest rates were 15%.
Yes, they were for me too, and it makes us sound old talking like this, doesn't it? No, we're not. I've been to makeup. I look at least 10 years younger. I mean, the reality is, you're right, 15% interest rates. And this can create even more hardship, can't it? Because when we had those high interest rates, lots of people then lost their jobs. They couldn't afford to maintain their property, and then they were homeless as well. So actually, there is no... I think the problem really is that because of this loose, if you like, monetary policy, the way that you could get 5 times your income to buy a property, that's overinflated property prices. The truth is, all our property prices are grossly overvalued. They need to come down by about 30%. And if they did that, that would open up the whole market for those poor people who are in difficult circumstances, who genuinely do want a home of their own and actually deserve to have a home of their own, instead of, you know, vested interest playing a little game and thinking this is all great, this will line my pocket a bit more with some commission and agency fees.
Is it still a good investment like it used to be buying property? Was it Mark Twain who said, buy land, they aren't making any more?
Yeah, it was. And in reality, I personally think, as far as the UK's economy and economic outlook is concerned, I would say no is short answer to that, purely and simply because I feel we're at the peak of property prices. The fact that agents may try and push them up again, which indeed they will, because that's their profession, doesn't necessarily make it a good thing. All it actually does is harbour the vast majority of viewers with even more debt and even more difficulty as those interest rates rise, and they will rise.
I think estate agents are even less popular than journalists.
It really is. That
apparently,
is
so
that
I read
possible?
in a survey.
And financial advisors.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
Welcome to the club, everybody.
Thanks very much indeed, as always, Roddy. News at sky.com, 84501. Do let us know.